a new era of NXT. They debut on network television. The CW network is now NXT's new home. They debut tonight with a big-time show. CM Punk, a special guest referee between Ethan Page and Trick Williams for the NXT Championship. Giulia takes on Roxanne Perez in a women's championship match, highly anticipated. Best friends, bitter rivals now, former brothers, Les Lee and Zachary Wentz go at it in a street fight. We have an appearance from the women's tag team champions Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, and a whole lot more surprises in store. We present to you the first episode of the NXT debut on the CW. And later on, we get presidential with the vice presidential debate. We'll be live for that as well. It's the Flex Zone Podcast coming to you. What's going on, everybody? God's favorite host back again here on the Flex Zone Podcast. NXT and the vice presidential debate. Big time night for you. We're not going to waste any more time. The show is starting. Let's bring him up. He was here. He asked me if we're still doing it. Yes, we're still doing it. The one and only Wolf. What's up, Wolf?
Yeah, so we got a big day today. As we are probably well aware, the first 30 minutes of NXT tonight will be commercial free.
Let me bring up one more person before you do that. Let's bring him up. Beyond the Mat Podcast, kicking it with Leo. He's here for NXT. He's excited. I told him he's doing it. Leo, the official Flex Zone statistician.
What's good.
Go ahead, Wolf.
So what's it called? First 30 minutes of NXT will be commercial free. Most of that will probably be spent on the opening match, which will be perhaps the most exciting match of the night. Roxanne Perez defending the NXT Women's Championship against the beautiful Madness, Giulia. We also have, like Byron said, we have Zachary Wentz and Wesley in a street fight. No Trey Miguel in sight, seemingly. We have two members of Fatal Influence, which is the faction between JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Jasmine Nix, against Lola Vice and Jada Parker. We have Miz TV with the North American champion Obafemi and his challenger Tony D'Angelo. And then our main event will be the NXT Championship on the line. Ethan Page defending against former champion Trick Williams with special guest referee, Chicago's own CM Punk.
Leo, how you feeling, man?
We're
here on the CW, brother.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think tonight they have a lot to prove, but I think they're going to give us a good show, to say the least. I know a couple of my content creator friends that are there in attendance tonight. So for those that are there, I know Jugs is there. I know one of my other content creators.
Jugs is there. Hear these thoughts.
One of my other friends who's a female who's also a wrestling fan, she's there tonight there as well. So we're starting out with Shawn Michaels. I mean, I do like the new logo that they're going for. It kind of gives me back like the old vibes of NXT to an extent with the white and gold like they used to do for these NXT takeovers. But I really hope that they do something with the titles, though. I do need a new design of the titles because we've been long overdue for some new design.
Starts off.
I'm not a fan of the 2.0 era color scheme still, even though we're past that supposedly. So we'll see.
Looks like he's about to reveal something behind him, guys. The crowd is lit, though. Pretty big crowd tonight. Jugs is there. Hades Thoughts is there.
Woo!
Maybe it could be a new title. It looks like titles.
I love it when Sean opens up shows. I just every time
it's a new title. We might be getting some new titles. Speaking of titles, how do you feel about the new design of the Intercontinental Championship? I think it looks better than what we had.
They should have did that from the beginning when they did it unveil.
Yeah, I was thinking if they were gonna do an Intercontinental title redesign, they would have had like a unveiling, but they just had Jay come out with it.
Ooh.
Whoa,
that does look good.
I don't know. The silver does not do. I prefer the gold.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, here.
We got the one and only CEO Triple H in the building.
Okay. Oh, yay.
I don't know how I feel about the new titles yet, though.
That's what I'm saying, because like the silver just doesn't work well.
It doesn't pop.
No, I feel like the silver would be better on the white strap, but the black strap needs to be gold. I think they should have had it be gold. I'm gonna put it out there. At least the North American title looks good. I feel like the North American title is best in NXT right now. I'm just put it out there. But apparently, the Motor City Machine Guns is supposed to debut tonight, or is it probably going to be showing up tonight?
Woo!
Oh, this is Giulia. Right?
Love it.
So is she going to win the title here?
I think she is. I was just saying that to Wolf earlier. As far as the Bad Blood goes, we only have 2 title matches and both are women. So I feel like one is possibly going to change hands for some reason. If we get Tiffany cashing in,
I think we get a cash in probably.
Yeah.
But my thing is, only reason I said is why we should wait is because is anybody going to remember that when the night is over after Roman and Cody and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre?
Exactly. You want it to be memorable. And I was just saying, I think what's going to happen is after Nia wins, I think possibly Charlotte comes back for some reason because she's been rumored to return for quite some time. Either that, or maybe they do something different.
I mean, I'm hoping they turn Naomi heel, but
that's what I was about to say too. Maybe she comes out on NXT, not NXT, but Bad Blood and turns right after the match. And Jimmy, he recently came back.
I'm gonna see if I can.
That's what I'm saying. I
want a closer look at the titles.
Lord have mercy, Giulia look good. Like they say.
Is Cora Jade back? Does she return tonight in school? Roxanne?
Well, apparently, if any women are going to be returning, it's not going to be Cora. Cora's not going to be taking place until like later on this year. Probably like November, December, probably, which she'll return. But they did say Nikita Lyons probably will return because she recently competed at the
I figured she'd be coming back soon.
Wait, who is?
Nikita.
Yeah. Roxanne said, what's it called? Cora has maybe a month left in her recovery.
Yeah. I don't know. At least with the color scheme with the white strap NXT Women's title, it looks good, but the men's don't. I was thinking if they would have booked this right, maybe you could, if you did have Roxanne retain, have Cora come back as a face and then have her be the one to take it. But I don't think people will want that, honestly.
This is my first ever Giulia match, so I'm excited to see what she has to, if she lives up to the hype.
Yeah.
But Roxanne Perez is really good. I could see her in the main roster in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, she is from Texas.
Millions from Now by 2 Chainz and Lil Wayne is the intro for NXT.
So it's just WWE just trying to get all hip hop people to seem cool.
Pretty much.
The songs they pick are trash. They're picking trash songs. SmackDown trash. This is trash.
Why are they? You got the title upside down.
What?
Well, that's going to be on Botchamania.
Wait, what?
They just got the
holding the
titles.
Is he related to the Great Khali holding the title upside down like that?
Hey man, they're goofy.
And why did they hold up the old women's title instead of the new one?
Because they did it 3 seconds before the show.
We just get a glimpse.
Need to be slapped.
That's pretty much what's going on.
Yeah, Jugs is there. Hear These Thoughts is there.
Yeah. I might go to the Raw that they're coming to because I did see they're coming to Raw for December 30th. But I don't know. I did recently get the word that Matambo passed away yesterday, so RIP to him.
Yes, RIP.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, honestly.
Why is the Miz on NXT?
Because it's crazy. The fact that he turned heel last night and then and then is literally like on NXT tonight.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Looking at the NXT titles, it looks better.
Can you put them up if you get a chance?
Hold on. I can.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh. Let me see if I can.
Looking at it from this point of view, it looks like it's a mixture of gold and a little bit of silver. The white.
I just feel like
good.
I just feel like it's hard to tell what it is.
Yeah, the white looks good, but the black, it just doesn't stand out to me. At least with the white, you have the gold and the silver to kind of complement the white, but the black strap just doesn't do it for me. TV deal announcement for Tony Khan. People are already saying
Tony Khan announcement. What is this big announcement?
No way. No freaking way. Oh, bro.
What happened? What happened, Leo?
So pretty much none other than former Kayla Braxton is teasing she will be in the upcoming Scream 7 movie. People know I love me some Scream movies, and if she's in it,
You said you want to make Kayla Braxton scream. Is that what you said?
She's gonna be in the movie, but I would like to do that too, of course.
Okay. For that Leo Smith special.
Hey, featuring.
Oh man, yeah. I think we're gonna get a new champion. Well, 2 new champions tonight.
I think the women's and then the men's, and I think next week we're probably gonna get retentions because I don't think the North American titles changing hands, and I don't see the tag team titles changing hands. I don't know if the women's NXT North American titles on the line or anything like that, but if that's the case, then I don't know. I do think some main roster stars will be there tonight in like the crowd.
Some actual stars, not the Miz.
Yeah, like some actual main roster stars and stuff like that. Possibly, I could see them being there.
I'd actually rather, I'd rather do, I don't want to see the Miz.
I
mean, unless he's staying in the next team, I'm cool with it.
Then tomorrow we have the none other than who is it? the 5-year anniversary of AEW.
Dynamite. Yep. We have Ospreay, Ricochet. We have Brian Okada 3. But for both titles, but the Continental title will only be on the line for the first 20 minutes.
That's stupid, if you ask me.
You said what?
So okay.
So
explain
Brian versus Okada 3. Both titles on the line for the first 20 minutes, and then after 20 minutes, Okada's title is no longer on the line.
So yeah, pretty much that's crazy. So both titles are going to be on the line, but for Bryan Danielson to become double champion, he has to beat Okada in 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, the Continental title won't be up for grabs. It will just be the AEW title. Even MJF went on there and said, "I had a brain aneurysm literally trying to read this." Like, he says, "What?"
He spent 8 hours reading it and still couldn't figure it out, or something like that. I don't know, or maybe he read it 8 times. What else? We also have Britt Baker and Serena Deeb, and Hangman.
It looks like we're getting a new faction on AEW too, with Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie.
Yeah. And we also have Hangman Adam Page.
So we're getting a new faction with Taya Valkyrie and Deonna Purrazzo. It looks like Deonna's
leading the faction.
I mean, it sounds good if they actually knew how to book them, but they're gonna book them like trash. So I don't care. But go ahead.
And they're mainly on Collision anyway.
We have Hangman versus Juice Robinson on the 5-year anniversary of Dynamite as well.
We get a Jay White back, maybe a Jay White.
Reports are saying that Jay White will return imminently.
Yeah, that would be a good.
I am ready for a Hangman and Jay White feud.
And then we also did see recently that Kill Switch or Luchasaurus is
Oh yeah, he got hospitalized from having pneumonia in both his lungs.
So he's been in the hospital. His return.
Yeah, scary stuff.
Right now.
No wonder he hasn't been on TV. Hope he gets better.
Yeah,
because I think the story is him to turn on Christian and cost him. So.
Yeah. Or maybe he's the reason, or maybe he's like the reason he doesn't win. Because I could see that happening. Kill Switch is the reason.
I just want to see what they're doing with Swerve. I just want to see what they're doing with Swerve and Hurt Business.
Mox thing is doing.
I don't care about Moxley and Bryan again. I don't care about it.
But then on the other hand, I do want to see this Hurt Business stuff. I want to see how that plays out. And if Ricochet is,
if they put Ricochet in there like they're supposed to, then it'll work out.
Shelton Benjamin, Shelton is AEW bound. He is going to sign and going to be there. Like, that was kind of obvious with MVP there, but yes, Shelton will be showing up sometime soon. So I'm guessing we're at Wrestle Dream. If Swerve recovers by then, we'll probably get Swerve versus Bobby or Shelton. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Somebody was telling me earlier they have a prediction that Omos shows up. I said, "Are you sure about that?" I love I hope they haven't done anything with him, so I guess why not?
I mean, at this point, put him against Obafemi.
I'm still waiting for that Moose and Obafemi match.
I was about to say, are we going to get any TNA people?
Possibly, because speaking of TNA, you were talking about it recently, Byron. They're going to be doing Joe Hendry versus Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Title.
Bound for Glory.
His name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry.
That's what I care about, baby.
So Byron, I am curious about your thoughts. Next week will be Jey Uso's first title defense as he defends against Xavier Woods.
I'm still surprised. I'm still surprised that I'm just surprised that Bad Blood is literally at 5 o'clock my time.
Oh yeah, Sammy and Gunther is next week Raw instead of Bad Blood.
This?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be in Raw.
Yeah, it's gonna
So
be.
Nia Jax is on it, but not
Nia Jax is on
Jay
Bad Blood.
Uso's got on there. Okay. They better have something big planned for this Cody and Roman match.
Oh yeah,
Something
Brandon, what's it called? When we were doing our Bad Blood predictions video, me and Leo, I said that I think, well, one, I think the tag match with the Bloodline should open, and two, I think Solo and Jacob are gonna win. I think they're gonna do an angle.
They have to win, Wolf. They can't not win. I just don't. I guess they're gonna pin Cody. Yeah.
I think they're gonna do some like angle of like miscommunication, or like Jimmy probably like accidentally screws up Cody, and then Roman has to deal with that, and then
this is a good match.
I think Jacob is going to pin Cody. So you set up Jacob versus Cody maybe at like Crown Jewel or a future pay-per-view.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see something happen like that.
This is a good match so far. I will say that.
Match, you know, this has been a very good match.
Now she pushed her out.
Hey, it's fitting because like a lot of the times where somebody hits a finisher on Roxanne, she rolls out the ring. Now it's happening to her. It's crazy.
Are they gonna do the typical get in at 10? Yeah, they need to put Roxanne on World.
I think she's gonna be on moving up to the main roster, probably like Rumble season.
Probably.
Yeah, I think they're probably gonna.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she goes to the main roster right after tonight.
But I think you probably put on Raw, maybe.
Sure.
Raw, maybe SmackDown.
No, I think. Oh, what the hell?
What the what?
She's losing.
That's definitely not Stephanie Vicor.
Oh, that's definitely her. No, that's Cora.
Yeah. Yeah. Is
But
it?
she does that DDT, like dirty deeds.
Oh, okay. Well, if it is her, remember who called it, and I don't even watch NXT.
What?
People are confused.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh! It's Cora, bro. Told you.
When are y'all gonna give me some money?
God! What?
I mean, it was her city. She is from Chicago, so it made sense.
That's why I said it too. I know she's from Chicago.
I mean, having two of CM Punk's favorites there, I mean, it makes sense. His little daughter, so to speak. Yeah.
So I guess they're gonna push that match to what, Stand and Deliver, possibly where Giulia wins it or something.
Wow.
So I'm guessing. I don't know who's gonna take it. Maybe Cora.
Oh, well, that means Stephanie's coming as a face, and we'll probably maybe get some
No, I think
tag team.
either Stephanie's taking it or we're gonna see Cora turn at some point.
Well, I think Giulia Giulia's still
see
gonna
it.
take it though.
I could
Giulia
see
still
Cora
ends up
being the one to take it potentially, but wow, I did not expect that. Cora helping Roxanne.
I wouldn't be surprised at this though, Brian. This is just us fantasy booking. What if in the main event, CM Punk is out there and Drew comes in? He couldn't get his hands on CM Punk on Raw, but he can on NXT.
I could see that. I could see that happen. I could see that. Well,
Zachary Wentz and Wesley for the street fight. This is gonna be good. This is definitely gonna be good.
I think Wesley definitely needs to win this match.
Wesley's winning this one only because Zachary won the last one,
which I was very surprised
about. Rumble. They're advertising the Rumble.
Wow,
very surprised.
I was so confused. I was like, "What's going on?" Because I didn't see her at all. I was just like, "Who is this?" And then it just happened so quick, and then just suddenly it's Cora. I'm like, "Oh my god." Oh my god.
You going to the Rumble Barn or no?
I don't know what I'm doing. Depending on how much the tickets are. I'm not trying to go broke. There's too many events next year. There's too many events. Rumble, All In, SummerSlam's in New York.
You got Mania. You got Mania 2 nights. You got SummerSlam 2 nights.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm going to see what the tickets are like, then I'll go from there.
I'm probably just gonna only go to All In next year, if anything.
I'm definitely trying to do All In now.
I'm gonna try to do one WWE show next year and then one AEW. If I can do a pay-per-view. If there's a pay-per-view in Texas, then I'll go.
Yeah.
Because I know AEW has their pay-per-views. Ring of Honor has a lot of pay-per-views in Texas, so I can probably end up going to one of those. Maybe I'll go to a TNA and WWE show up there in Texas.
Street fighting next, and then the main event will be the NXT Championship.
That I think we'll get a title change for sure. Because there's no other match. Well, you have Jada Parker on there tonight. Jada Parker and Lola Vice teaming up. So you have that. You're gonna have Obafemi on the show in a Miz TV segment with him and Tony D'Angelo. And you have the main event. Next week I know is NXT Tag Team titles. I'm trying to think. Maybe we get Ricky Starks tonight. Ricky Starks, Hikuleo. I'm going for either one.
I just don't see Hikuleo on NXT. I feel like he's going to be in the Bloodline thing.
Well, he's to be on there. I'm trying to think if
I can see.
Then when are they going to bring him over to City if they're talking about tonight? Because I don't see an opportunity to bring them in tonight. I just say wait till next week for Motor City Machine Guns. In all honesty,
yeah, because you got Randy Orton next week too.
Yeah. I'm gonna just say Ricky Starks comes in at the end of the show. That's my bold prediction.
I can see that. It's not
I want it to be Wardlow. I want it to be Wardlow, but it's not.
He ain't out his contract yet.
Yeah.
Nah.
And he's injured.
And apparently, also we were just it's actually confirmed too, Byron, that none other than Malachi, aka Alistair, his contract with AEW was supposed to be up in 2027, and that was the plan. But apparently, after actually a confirmation from Fightful, it ends in 2025. In early
confirmation from Fightful, I didn't see that.
He talked about it, so his contract is up with AEW in 2025, early 2025.
I still think he's probably
because actually right now, apparently, WWE is really trying to throw a huge offer at him to sign him to the WWE again. If he comes back, I'm all for it. Because at least he'll be on his own, and I think
need to make him a main eventer. I'm sorry.
Hey,
if he goes back, he must be world title division. Immediately.
He can be world champion, but he doesn't have to be world champion right away. He can be in the mid card and build his way.
He doesn't have to be world champion right away. He just needs to fight the main eventers. He needs to fight the Codys, the Seths, the Romans, he needs to fight those guys. He shouldn't be facing
they're gonna want to build him up to that. So they're gonna have him go up against the people like your Sami Zayn, your Kevin Owens. You're probably gonna have him go up against maybe like a CM Punk in WWE. You're gonna have him go up against maybe like a who else on the main roster that maybe like a Jey Uso. Probably have him go up against like a Gunther, and then some other stuff.
Yeah, I'm not seeing.
I can see them doing
from Fightful about Malachi's contract being.
I think they talked about it last week, so you have to go back further.
I don't know. It's not showing on Twitter. I only see Raj Giri, and Raj Giri is known to not be a reliable source.
Why does everybody have to play PlayStation in the back? 2K.
Who knows?
At this point, they're advertising.
Why is she general manager still? Does she do anything?
Did you also hear that? What's his name? Armando Estrada. You know what? You heard about him?
Yeah, I did. I think you were telling me about him before.
He's gonna be coming back. He's probably gonna be on the manager for the Bloodline, like their wise man. Lexus King. Hey, his edge. Hey, whoever does his hairline and stuff like that. Hey, they're doing the
man. It could cut me through the TV.
Facts.
So it sounds like inside two wolves, you got to figure out which one to win at all costs, or you're going to fight against the genes you were born with.
What is he talking about?
Oh, he's been competing against another person at NXT for a bit.
Oro, from Metaphor. So yeah, I guess Punk is giving Lexus advice.
I'm gonna try to get to an NXT show. Hopefully, I need to get to an NXT show at some point. Because at least with NXT, I can sit like front row and not break the bank.
Yeah.
Could the Motor City Machine Guns come in after this match, possibly?
Is there a male tag team match tonight?
No, not until next week. But both of these guys were from TNA. But I don't know.
Maybe, like you said, maybe they do the Motor City next week and just wait.
Yeah, there's no point in bringing them in tonight if you have nothing for them to do unless you just have a cameo and that's it.
Yeah. Mm.
I like this new version of Wesley. More aggressive.
That's what I was gonna say. Is he gonna be champion again, or is he just gonna be a heel that doesn't win nothing?
I think he probably is gonna be the one to take the title from Trick, possibly if it's not gonna be none other than
Yeah, I could see it that Trick wins it back tonight and then West takes it.
Either West is taking it or Ricky Starks is taking it.
Yeah. Yeah, Wesley definitely going to win tonight, though. But make sure you
Yeah,
guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that bell.
Yeah, he lost the last pay-per-view, so he needs to win this one. But I do like Nash Carter's finisher. That is so cool.
Yeah, I think I saw it. It's pretty good.
I'm just starting to look at this now, but is it just me, or does Wesley remind me of like a younger version of Hear These Thoughts or something like a, you know, you see what you get you see the resemblance. Looks like they're having AJ come back as a face too.
Hope they put him in that U.S. title picture. That'd be a nice, fun mid card.
Either, yeah. I don't know. You know what I'm thinking? I just thought about it. If they bring Jay over to SmackDown, send AJ over to Raw. I think.
But they're not moving Jay to SmackDown. He ain't losing. They're probably not gonna move him over.
Yeah. But
and now, if they're turning Braun Breaker face, it feels like they're gonna have Jay keep it for a while.
Yeah. It seems like they're like already teasing Braun to go after Gunther.
I'm not mad at it. I just feel like I'm not mad at them turning him face because I think he kind of was over anyway. So it was a point they probably were going to have to turn him face at some point anyway. So you might as well just do it now. But then again, it's just like I would like to see AJ over there just because he can add more to that IC title scene, or actually him versus Gunther would be cool, which I wouldn't be mad at.
Yeah.
Someone trying to steal your
AJ and Punk.
AJ and Drew again would not be bad. Because AJ and Rollins, we know their chemistry. AJ and Punk, we never seen them face in a long time. I think I don't think they ever face each other. At least
nope.
So you could do that if you want to. You can have him go after the
got a lot of people to go against. Yeah. Definitely could see that.
Because think about it. Now that you don't have Ilya Dragunov for like 6 to 9 months, you need somebody else to kind of fill that void. And it kind of sucks. Like he had his match.
That would have been a good. That would have been a good feud. AJ. You saw what I said in the chat. A meaningless match.
That's what I'm saying. Like you had that on a house show. You could have put that. You could have literally booked that for Crown Jewel for all I care.
I mean, well, they made sure, apparently on commentary, Joe made sure to like really emphasize that Ilya's injury was basically because of Gunther. So I think they'll probably do Ilya Gunther like right after Ilya comes back.
Hosts have increased after stroke. Antidepressants
definitely sucks.
Actions and words of depression is children adults. Call your healthcare provider right away to report numerous sudden changes in behavior, thoughts, and feelings. Wonder if you develop suicidal thoughts or actions. Report fever, stiff muscles, and confusion, which can be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar can lead to death, weight gain, increased cholesterol, unusual urges, dizziness of the standing, falls, seizures, trouble swallowing.
Damn, it's a long commercial break.
You're telling me
they got rid of the commercials?
I feel like they did. And I was just telling Wolf how like they're literally just dragging this feud between Austin Theory and Grayson, and he even said that apparently they're probably gonna be dragging this out till Mania. I don't want to see Austin. Hey, I love me some Austin Theory. I want him on Mania, but not against Grayson.
What I'm saying is I could see
just make it
the turn happening much earlier, but like the feud ends at Mania.
If you want them at Mania and be involved, do a US ladder match for the title.
They
You
could
get like
also do
7
that.
men, and you can have both of them in the match. I was even saying you could do a women's ladder match if you want to.
Oh, all right. We got the merch website. Oh yeah, I need
It's
to.
good, K Nation.
What's it called? Get the new NXT titles. I
Hey,
guess
we got Jada Park and Lola.
I need to get the new titles. All right, that's fine. Let me see. Where is? All right.
Oh, she has a backup plan. What does that mean? Is that Nikita Lyons?
Perhaps. Maybe it's someone else.
No. Yeah.
Maybe it's a TNA person.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We shall
Apparently
see.
they're trying to get TNA to be involved in WWE 2K25, but they got to get some of the licensing stuff taken care of.
We got community creation, so it don't matter.
But did you see they really went through with making Dominic Mysterio toilet paper?
Yeah.
Yes. They're literally selling toilet paper. And I can show you.
On it.
And people are
What's up,
buying
KD?
it.
Julio, I also sent you a better look at the NXT Women's title from the shop on Instagram.
Look at this. Check this. Hold on. The little skeleton thing
Good,
that he gets.
KD watching NXT.
I would buy this. This is his
Okay, this I think is cool, especially for like Halloween season. Like that's definitely a merch thing. That's like normal. The skeleton thing I think is completely fine just because it's October and all.
You see
that
$13? You think I'm paying for a roll of toilet paper for $13? You are tripping. You're tweaking.
It's not even like a pack. It's like one singular roll.
And then Liv goes on to say,
probably use up in a week.
And here's the crazy thing, though, Brian. Liv goes on and says, "Good luck to everybody who buys this, because that's the closest you're getting Dominic between your legs." So it's an indication that Dominic is between the legs.
WWE will sell anything.
I wouldn't be surprised
if they were selling fake CM Punk bracelets was something.
And then I think they were doing, what were they doing at some point? They're doing bracelets, they're doing hoodies, shirts, plaques. You got baby clothes on there for WWE.
Or Jade is our big surprise for the first hour.
We're probably gonna get more.
We'll see. We'll see.
I think that would be nice.
Hey, if we have this open for me, please. I'm crossing my fingers. Moose shows up.
I was gonna say, yeah, that you did say they're having that segment. Somebody does have to show up. Possibly.
To interrupt. But it's already between the champion and challenger for next week.
Shoot. Are they having a specific type of match? Because I know he beat him already.
I don't think it's a specific match. Maybe they'll say something tonight. Possibly. But right now, it's no. I'm telling you, if Ricky starts, I'm losing my voice tonight. And I'm sure Queen Mia will as well.
See that being the ending of the show.
I think Giulia losing is probably like the biggest shock tonight.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be a table, or are they supposed to go through the wood? That was kind of whack.
Supposedly, I guess.
Another commercial? Really? That's why I don't like those commercial-free minutes, because
You know what's crazy? They'll tell you got an hour first commercial, and then or 30 minutes commercial free, and by the 25th mark, they're already going in to commercial. False advertisement on your part, WWE.
they love doing it. I just don't understand why, if we're doing starting Bad Blood an hour earlier, why we can't get one more match on that.
That's what I'm saying. You're starting at 5:00, so I'm guessing the show's gonna be 3 hours, so it's probably gonna end at maybe like 8, maybe 9.
I'll say the show's probably like 3.5 hours. Because
Yeah, so
Roman
it's
and
probably
Cody is like 30 minutes. Roman and Cody coming in the ring is like 30 minutes.
Not wrong. And the Hell in a Cell match
Plus,
will
if
probably
they-
be like 30.
Plus
minutes,
the cell
45.
coming down in the match, that's like an hour.
And then like video packages too.
So 4 hours.
Yeah.
They should have put Mello and Andrade
And then
Max 7
even
on there.
the Shark Cage.
So 5 hours almost.
Because the Shark Cage and then Dominic entering that.
Then you still got Priest and Finn.
And
They
then
do a cash in. If they do a cash in,
I don't think they're gonna do a cash in. I think Charlotte comes back, and then they do Charlotte Nia, and then that's when.
and then like Leo said, they got the video packages. Then Jade and Bianca are supposed to be hosting. Like, what?
And then they have a surprise for us as well, and they're probably gonna do the attendance.
Well, look, I'm gonna just say this: it's not the surprise I want from them too. Okay. Just saying.
After all, I'm a human. After all, everything's on me. You're looking a real problem. So they're really selling the Spinner U.S. title for $337.
Is that good?
Considering
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
good, 'cause
$450.
That's on WWE.
And then the Winged Eagle's $322. The WWE Championship, the old one, the network is $337. The Big Gold is $322, and the Attitude Era is $322 as well. And the Undisputed title is $322, the old one.
The Brock Lesnar one I call.
They got Uso shorts that's like blue and pink. I would cop those for sure. But I'm not paying no $41 for it though. Yeah, they're $41 for some shorts. At the old Intercontinental Championship, which is the new one is based off of. I always like this championship. This is like my top 2 right now as far as IC titles go. Yeah, definitely got to be in my top 3. Top 3 or top 2, one or the other.
Yesterday I was happy because my football team won pretty easily.
The Lions.
Lions beat Seahawks 42-29. I think.
I mean, looking at the game, we knew that was going to happen. The Seahawks really didn't stand a chance, honestly.
Yeah, they seem to be kind of squashing.
I will say, Brian, this is probably like the top Intercontinental Championship because this is just so iconic. I like how they paid homage to this title with the new one that they have. But $300 for this one is not bad.
Great.
Oh,
why are they doing all this mutant? Oh, because they're cussing. I hate that.
Yeah,
They're really selling the Stone Cold vest for $90 is crazy. The Brahma Bull is $374.
I always like the Brahma Bull title.
And then I like the blue backing too. The blue backing really looks cool. Then the SmackDown tag team titles, the old ones, the blue and silver ones are $300. The NXT title is $322.
Not worth it. I'm sorry.
Nah, not necessarily. And it looks like they're about to have Judgment Day potentially feed Wyatt 6 soon.
Oh,
I
Joey.
don't know. I don't know if they will. I don't know.
Oh,
It
that's
seems
cool. They have
like
this on here.
I feel like White 6 might actually end up feuding with either Woods or Miz.
Probably, maybe you have turning your back on your friend, or they could do like Wyatt 6.
I mean, I do like the
Destiny.
Xavier Woods Jey Uso match though, because I mean he's turning heel. I like what they're doing with that. It's intriguing. I like it. And plus, Woods never got his opportunity to be a single star, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Because originally Jay had offered Kofi the match, and then Kofi
said, "No, I
was
don't
like,
want
"Nah, give it to Woods."
I would definitely. I'm not a big mask person, but I would get the Rey Mysterio mask just because it's iconic one. This is the Halloween Havoc 1997.
Good one.
Yeah, that's a nice mask. I like that one.
Yeah, I would consider getting it. I don't know what I'm gonna do for Halloween this year. I might just.
I wish they could make like a replica Andrade mask. That would be cool.
I'm just watching.
I mean, if they made a replica Andrade mask, I wouldn't be surprised if they made it like 100. Just because of how what's it called? How good quality it is, and then they'll probably make like a.
Was he supposed to go
toy
through
one
that table?
I thought he was supposed to.
I think he killed.
Probably. It's probably an overshot.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
God.
I
He
feel like
definitely
they
was split.
could make like a plastic Andrade mask for like 30 years.
Yeah, that had to hurt. Oh my gosh.
I gotta say these.
There we go.
This is a good match. They're putting up some good matches. I ain't gonna lie, bro. We might have to start looking at some more NXT content, possibly. I mean, they have some good match quality. I will say that.
It's supposed to be, I don't know. The Street Fight is okay. I mean, it's not nothing special.
I'm trying to see.
I mean, even to me, the Roxanne Giulia match was okay. It's just the ending was the best part.
Hey, check your Instagram. Probably I sent you some on Instagram. That's great. He's funny. Try to kill him.
Yo, stop. Why you send me this?
It was one of these other people that I know. It's the looks like Kitty's thoughts got some good seating.
That wasn't needed. That was a very much needed win.
Well, like you said, I'd love to see Wesley in the main event for the NXT Championship.
Yeah, now that he's heel for sure.
Man, I miss MXK. They were so good. Them against Fraxian, that would be so great.
I mean, we already got MSK and
They really ain't no way. I'm not seeing this. That's just disgusting if you ask me. Ain't no way. Bro, you gotta look at this. I'm looking at some crazy stuff. So the caption that they use, it says, this guy's son and nephew used their auntie's breast milk for their cereal on accident. What are we doing?
Stupid. Just stupid.
What?
Exactly what I said. There's no way. Oh yeah, this is definitely me right here. I gotta send you this one if I can find it. Oh yeah, this is definitely gonna be fun. This is definitely it. I sent it to you.
Leo, what are you sending me now? More porn? No, I'm joking.
This is not. No, this is
Hey, yo.
I'm joking, Wolf. I'm joking. No porn right now. That's after NXT. That's the late night show.
You said you're looking at the what's going on tonight? The debates.
The vice presidential debate. Yeah, 9 or 8. Good.
I might tune in. We'll see.
It's in 5 minutes.
We'll be on him. So.
What? Are they're making boxers for WWE now? They're making boxers for WWE.
Wait, I just realized who might show up on the Oba and Tony. Truth.
Oh Lord.
So are we getting a Miz R-Truth? That's what we're doing again?
No. The thing is, Miz turned on Truth on Monday. I think yesterday.
But didn't they do that before when they were tag teaming years ago?
Many years ago, and Truth was the one to turn. No, Miz was the one to turn.
That's why I thought the Miz.
Yeah, but basically, Karrion convinced Miz to turn on Truth, and that's what happened.
I mean, everybody get an R-Truth push? No, maybe Little Jimmy back. No.
Nah, the best version of R-Truth was 2011 when he was talking about Little Jimmy. His feud with John Cena was cool. Then him being pretty much always assuming stuff. Talking about this is conspiracies. You see this, man? This is what WWE is coming to. WWE is really out here selling this on their website now. If I'm in front of my girl, whoever that is, with that on, she's gonna look at me like, "What's going on with you?" I'm a wrestling fan, but not that much to have the WWE Championship on my boxers. If I want WWE Championship so bad around my waist in that manner, I'm pulling a Drake Maverick.
Included on that defeat.
They're already selling the Okay, looking at it from this standpoint, though, Byron, you can get a better look at the titles for NXT now. Now that we can kind of see them a little bit better on the WWE like shop and stuff, we can kind of see how they look a little bit better. So this is the woman's. I think the woman's looks okay. I think now, when you agree, now kind of seeing it a little bit better, it kind of looks a little bit better. It looks a little bit better looking at it like this, but the men's, I'm not so sure. The men's is not really doing it for me. The silver kind of throws it off for me.
I think it's all right. I mean, definitely the merch site is definitely making it look better, but the shop website is definitely making it look better.
Would I be crazy if I said maybe the Miz beats Jey Uso for the IC title next?
Oh, they're already doing them.
Leo, are you trying to make me end the stream?
Him beating Jey Uso? Okay, no, it's because like I feel like them making him a heel. I think that's when he thrives at his best. But at the same time, like we know he's done some great work with the IC title, and I think he's like 2 title victories away from breaking the record, which is still held by Chris Jericho with 9. And I think Miz has 7.
He could lose to Jey Uso, sure.
The NXT North American Championship match that will take place next week in St. Louis. I've got the champion. I've got the challenger. So let's bring them out right here.
That would be
here we go, baby.
No, not right now, but like some point down the line, with them doing like some type of shenanigans or something. Oba for me is like one of my favorites in WWE, period. Not just NXT. When he gets to the main roster, it's gonna be game over for a lot of people. He makes me want to get the NXT North American title.
All right, it's that time.
All right.
So
speaking of merch, I just got some socks that I found at my local grocery store. They were WWE socks. Probably sometime down the line.
Was dripped out.
Finish him, Daddy.
I'm mad he don't say that no more since Braun Breaker's gone.
Miss, what are you doing? You cannot dance. Stop trying. Is he a heel or is he a face? I'm trying to figure that out. Do y'all think Jimmy will return? I think so.
I'm about to go live with the presidential stream.
Okay. That would be dumb. Yeah, it would be KT.
Oh, they didn't even.
Oh, joy! 2 ladies. I mean, look at that. I'm sorry.
I know, right?
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with the ladies.
This round might be Leo.
Then each candidate will get another minute to make further points, with an additional 1 minute each at the discretion of the moderator. The primary role of the moderators is to facilitate the debate between the candidates, enforce the rules, and provide the candidates with the opportunity to fact-check claims made by each other.
CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones to maintain decorum.
Your boys on Tony
We have
B.
not shared the questions or topics with the campaigns.
Haven't even watched
the stage is set. Governor, Senator, thank you for joining us. Let's get started.
I'm pretty sure he is.
Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises. The Middle East is on the brink of war. Right. Americans are suffering from the catastrophic impact of Hurricane Helene. And now a labor strike as 25,000 dock workers from Maine to Texas are picketing. We're going to begin tonight with the Middle East. Margaret.
Thank you, Nora. Earlier today, Iran launched its largest attack yet on Israel, but that attack failed.
Wow,
thanks to joint U.S. and Israeli defense action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region, over the past year to try to prevent
higher.
Iran is weakened. But the U.S. still considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would
CBS
take to
News.
develop a nuclear weapon. It is down now to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago, a nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President,
he is not saying a damn thing.
Steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to be able to draw on the other to bring them together.
I know. Look, he's not lying.
Our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the vice president said today we will protect our forces and our allied forces, and there will be consequences.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, the same question. Would you support
looks like the title got a different design for the NXT North American?
Iran? You have 2 minutes.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit, because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working class family. My mother required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me. And she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, do you care to respond to any of the allegations?
Well, look, Donald Trump.
What's the point of that segment, Leo?
Sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear
Leo,
program
what was the point of
and
that
the
segment?
inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that
And I'm
program
thinking this was
and
going to
put
be
nothing
to
else in its
potentially
place.
set up
So Iran
a
is closer
stipulation.
than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace,
they're running this
Donald
back
Trump
from earlier. So of
that's
course
the
Jay's probably gonna
standard
say something to
diplomacy
say.
of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches.
Now,
Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense
we
to
heard
him.
that before.
Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Senator Vance, the U.S. did have a diplomatic deal with Iran to temporarily pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make a diplomatic deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible. Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that
There go your girls, Leo. Jada
extraordinary.
Parker.
You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time? I'm 40 years old. When was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
I thought, yeah, what the hell
We
is
have
that?
a lot to get to. Nora?
It's Fallon
Let's
Henley
turn
and
now to
JC
Hurricane
Jane.
Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than
Cowgirl,
160 people are
toxic
dead
attraction
and
girl,
hundreds
and
more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then of course afterwards to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job, and I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. And Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true.
Oh my God.
Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
I like this guy.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to
I like this
respond.
guy.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are
Did he?
happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are in contact with the governor.
Yeah,
I
this
serve
is
as
terrible story.
co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together. So all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there that we recover, but we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax, and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely makes sense. And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters.
Thank you. Senator, I want to give you an opportunity to respond there. The governor mentioned that President Trump has called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the Democrats, in particular Kamala Harris and her leadership, if they really believe that climate change is serious, what they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United States of America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years. Natural gas, we got to invest more in it. Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's raised energy prices and also meant that we're doing
Senator,
worse by the climate.
your time is up. Governor, would you like to respond?
Well, look, we're producing more natural gas than we ever have. There's no moratorium on that. We're producing more oil, but the folks know, and like I said, again, these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look, our number one export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefronts and things that we're seeing more and more of? But to call it a hoax and to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago, say, give me money for my campaign, and I'll let you do whatever you want. We can be smarter about that, and an all-above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. We're going to turn now to immigration. The crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants.
Dogs, man, where are the dogs?
People have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally.
Dogs, man.
Deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you asked about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things regarding children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history, 30% decrease in Ohio, but there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the largest state, a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border agents, detection for drugs, DOJ money to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things? And they need to be done by the legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump had 4 years. He had 4 years to do this. And he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator, dehumanizing people and telling him what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan, at one point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
I don't know why you're so quiet. Your time is up. Senator, the question was, will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are U.S. citizens? You have 1 minute.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris.
Man, NXT got some long commercials, man.
Nah, they do. I went back and forth freely in this country, and we know that they use children as drug mules, and it is a
5 minute, 10 minute.
has
God,
to stop.
what the hell is
That
this
just
guy
doesn't
saying?
pass the smell test. For 3 years, Kamala Harris went out bragging
But you're
that
not
she
gonna like
was
this
going to
though,
undo
as far
Donald
as
Trump's
wrestling
border
goes.
policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president
Senator,
again.
your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does show that a majority of Americans, more than 50%, support mass deportations?
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this. And Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true. Don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Langford did it. We could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send state law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald Trump and not working together to find a solution, it becomes a talking point. And when it becomes a talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
Tim,
Governor, your time is up. Senator, I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question first. The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would, through executive action, solve this. Do you disagree that Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern border is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our border czar, Kamala Harris, has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed, you've got hospitals that are overwhelmed, you have got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable.
Yeah, we're definitely getting a big babyface win or something tonight.
Look, this
we're being
bill
a lot of
also
heels winning tonight.
gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us, you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it.
About to get some surprise.
It's funded, it's supported by the people who do it, and it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify, so for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large
Women's
number
tag
of
team
Haitian migrants
champions are here.
who have legal status.
Oh,
temporary
Joy, Bianca
protected
Belair.
status.
Bianca and Jay.
Senator, we have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
We're
because
going to turn now to the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that
The
you guys
economy,
weren't going to
we're-
fact check, and since you're fact checking me,
Watch
I think it's
yourself
important to say what's actually going
Go
on.
crazy over there.
So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for
You too,
asylum
Wolf.
or
There's a lot of
apply for
chocolate in the ring
parole
right now.
and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by
Thank
our
you,
own
Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those
We have
laws
so
have been on
much.
the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We
CBP
want to have.
One app has not been on the books.
Something that Kamala Harris.
There's a lot of black girl
Gentlemen,
magic
you're-
going on.
The audience can't hear you because your mic.
What was the point of them being
We
there?
have so much we want to get to. Thank you for
You're
explaining.
not gonna like
the
this,
legal
Brian, as
process.
far as AW goes. You're
Nora,
not gonna like
Thank
this.
you, Margaret.
You want to know what
The
I'm hearing?
economy is a top concern for
Well,
voters.
so-
Each of your campaigns
Mark
has
Briscoe
released an
got
economic
pinned
plan. So let's
recently
talk
by
about the
Chris Jericho,
specifics.
and it looks
Governor
like Chris
Walz,
Jericho's
Vice
about to
President
get shot
Harris
at the Ring of
unveiled a
Honor
plan
World
that
title.
includes billions in tax credits for
That's fine
manufacturing,
as long as Mark
housing,
won't.
and a renewed child tax credit. The Wharton School says your proposals will increase the nation's deficit by
Address
$1.2
the NXT
trillion.
future. We got Javon Evans up
How would
next.
you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We
No,
both grew up
that's-
in that.
no,
We
that's
understand.
BS.
So
You do
those
not
of you
believe
out
in
there
the middle
listening
class,
tonight,
no.
you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed
None
to
of them do.
You should be listening. How's this going to impact me? The bold forward plan that Kamala Harris put out there is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end.
You
to
know,
get you
that
a
could
house.
be
A house
JD's
is
brother,
much
though,
more
for like
than just
real.
an asset to be traded
He
somewhere.
does look like
It's
JD a little
foundational to
bit.
where you're at.
Think he looks
And
like
then
him, man?
making sure that the things you
Yeah,
buy
he
every
does.
day,
Kinda does
whether
a
they
little
be
bit.
prescription drugs or other things,
Kinda does a
that there's
little bit.
fairness in that. Look, the $35 insulin is a good thing,
Might be
but it
him.
costs
Might be
$5
him.
to make insulin. They were charging $800
I mean, he
before
does. He
this
does
law went
wear a
into
hat all the
effect.
time.
As far as the housing goes, I've seen it in
Man.
Minnesota.
He
12%
got the
more
little
housing
salt
in
and pepper.
Minneapolis. Prices went down on rent 4%. It's working. And then making sure tax cuts go to the middle class. $6,000 child tax credit. We have one in Minnesota. Reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for families. And then getting businesses off the ground. The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit for small business, increasing that to $50,000. Now, this is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks to Mar-a-Lago, said, "You're rich as hell, I'm gonna give you a tax cut." He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to
Did
the
he say
top
he kept
class.
the
What
promise?
happened
Really?
though was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever.
Yes.
Now he's proposing a 20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it. It would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do. We'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair
How
share.
about you now,
When
I
you
think.
do that, our system works best. More people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan and says it would increase the nation's deficit by $5.8 trillion. My question is the same for you. How do you
Oh
pay
boy,
for all
you
that
see Emergency
without
Awesome's
ballooning the deficit?
review
I'll give you
about
2
Joker.
minutes.
He put what
Well,
the
first of all, you're going to hear a
Is it
lot
bad?
from Tim Walz this evening, and you
It's
just heard it in
terrible
the
from
answer.
what
A
I've heard.
lot of what Kamala
be
Harris
bad?
proposes to do,
terrible.
and some of it, I'll
Not
be
bad,
honest with you,
terrible.
it even sounds pretty
Like,
good.
they
Here's
completely
what you
shitted
won't
the
hear
bed.
is that Kamala Harris
Making
has
it sound
already
Is it because
done
they doing the
because
goofy
she's
stuff
been
like I
the
said,
vice
like
president
singing
for
and
3.5
dancing?
years. She had the opportunity
probably
to enact
that, but
all
they
of
said
these
it's
great
pointless.
policies, and what she's actually done instead
I'm
is
gonna check out his
drive the
review.
cost of food higher
He's
by
not the only person that's
25%,
saying it, though.
drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%.
You should have never
open
made a
the
sequel
American
then, if
southern
that's the
border
case.
and make middle class life
wanted
unaffordable for a large number of
the money.
Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle class problems, then she ought to do them now.
Oh,
Not when
boy.
asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her
You know,
3.5
Emergency
years
Awesome
ago.
never says that.
And the fact that she isn't
It's gotta
tells
be
you a lot about
says
how
that.
much you can trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's
Leo, why you
also
look
a
like that?
record. A lot of those same economists
looking
attack
at
Donald
JD
Trump's
Vance.
plans, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom, because Donald Trump's economic policies delivered the highest take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say, look at the record. He delivered rising take-home pay for American workers. Now, Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump tax cuts. But if you look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax cut plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle class and working class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen in a generation in this country. That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that common sense wisdom so that you can afford to live the American dream again. I know a lot of you are struggling. I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country.
Governor, do you want to respond to that? What has Kamala Harris done for the middle class?
Well, Kamala Harris's day one was Donald Trump's failure on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before COVID in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great Depression. 9 million jobs closed on that. That was day one. Whether it was the Infrastructure Act or other things we moved. Now, you made a question about experts, said this. I've made a note of this. Economists can't be trusted. Science can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump.
Maybe
and the same thing goes with this. And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, whatever, how is it fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years? And the last year as president. That's what's wrong with the system. Because there's a way around it, and he's bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts. But those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about
they
it.
made a
And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an economic issue. I mean, I've got 3 beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2, and I love them very much, and I hope they're in bed right now. But look, so many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop. And we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that, look, we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we believe in. I think the thing that most concerns me on this is Donald Trump was the guy who created the largest trade deficit in American history with China. So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics show that he did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously
Just piss me off, man. I can't believe they messed up Joker.
Atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
I hope we have a conversation on
Senator, Governor.
Please.
I'm not saying that Adobe. That's not happening.
We have a lot to get to ahead, gentlemen, on many topics. But right now, I want to talk about personal qualifications. The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything, many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric, but being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Vance, in 2016, you called your running mate, Donald Trump, unfit for the nation's highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments and explained you then voted for Donald Trump in 2020. But the Washington Post reported new messages last week in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, "Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism." You're now his running mate, and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his. If you become vice president, why should Americans trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear and not just the advice he wants to hear? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American people about it. It's one of the reasons, Margaret, why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out the messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States senator,
you said, who is this?
that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up and says you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans.
Senator, your time is up. Nora? Thank you.
Now to the issue of reproductive rights. Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says, but look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind.
But that is what
Donald
the bill
Trump
says,
put
though.
this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed. And the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality skyrocket in Texas, outpacing many other countries in the world. This is about healthcare. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust women, we trust doctors.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options. And, you know, one of them is actually very dear to me. And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country.
Governor, would you like to respond and also answer the question about restrictions?
Yeah, well, the question got asked and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography? There's a very real chance had Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today. That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen to Vice President Harris talk about this subject and you hear me talk about it, you hear us talking exactly the same. Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, let me ask you about that. He mentioned, it was, I think, referring to a national ban. In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not, though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, one of the things that changed is in Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly, by the way, against
nothing different than before, really.
What I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust. So many young women would love to have families. So many young women
don't see nothing different than before.
Pregnancy is something that's going to destroy their livelihood, destroy their education, destroy their relationships, and we have got to earn people's trust. At least Leo likes it. That's why Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making childcare more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible, because we've got to do a better job.
No, you know, D and Dre want to shill it.
Governor, your response.
I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with one of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that too. We know that the options need to be available, and we make that true. We also make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children. But these two things, to try and say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case at all. We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator?
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was.
Them being classy
And maybe
to each other.
You're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on, and we're going to be right back with much more of the CBS News vice presidential debate in just a moment.
Interesting.
They finally taking a break, man.
You know, that's how they did it with the presidential.
Oh yeah,
they went like out almost like 45 minutes, and then they was like, "We'll be back, be right back." So,
oh, cool. We can see the end of NXT. I don't think Ricky Starks is showing up, Leo. It's like 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Well, NXT ends at 9:08 usually.
Oh, they gotta run over.
But
yeah, because NXT's been having like 8-minute overrun a lot of the time, so they might have an
it says we're in at 10. So I don't think we have no 8-minute overrun. Because it's on.
It is the CW, so I don't know what that means. So
yeah, it's on network television. It's not the USA Network. USA don't care because USA is in bed with WWE. They always been in bed with WWE.
Now with Raw, apparently.
Well, that's why they got SmackDown now. So
true.
They just substituted Raw for SmackDown.
You're not wrong.
And SmackDown will be 3 hours. How about that?
That's so goofy.
I know, right?
And then all this blanking out of all the cuss words where it just goes mute for like 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. They can probably do the same thing on NXT as well. I mean, not NXT, on Netflix as well.
That would be so stupid.
CM Punk.
Oh, what do you think about the debate so far, though?
I think it's good. I think that they're not, of course, they're not being as ignorant as Kamala and Trump, but they actually are giving out good points.
Best believe.
They're giving out good points, and they're actually like challenging each other in this debate. And they're very respectful, which is another good thing. So I'm liking
it. And plus, most people don't know who they are, so they are kind of giving people an idea who they are.
I think people should know, especially since people are trying to come after Trump's head, and who knows what's going to happen with Mala. So
they're not doing another presidential debate before the big voting day.
I highly doubt it.
They are not.
Oh, Joy, Sexy Red next week.
Oh my God, why is she there?
That's Queen Bee.
So she's performing.
They're in her hometown.
I can see about to bust a hot load, man. You need to chill out, man.
She's
You're
gonna
too
be
old for this.
performing live next week.
Oh, I see Queen is having fun.
I knew
You gotta get Dre on there for sure.
Always do, my brother.
Yeah, his girl will be performing next week.
Ridiculous. I guess she needs the money though, so they pay her enough. She'll coon out.
I mean, what she need the money for? Is her rapper career not working out?
She's a buffoon, Leo. She's just there to buffoon and coon on NXT
and twerk. That's it.
That's
the fact that she's performing and taking away time from talent is the goofy part.
Point noted.
She's the female version of that Boondocks character. Not
Thugnificent.
Yes, Thugnificent. Yes, there you go.
For a second, I thought you was about to talk about the one that was supposed to be like a prostitute or like a stripper.
What happened?
You know what the character that she was like a side character for like one of the episodes. She was like a stripper, like the white girl.
Just hoes coming for dinner. That episode.
Yeah. I thought she was referring to sexier than that. Pretty much.
No. She's a rapper, so she's a female version of Thugnificent.
Maybe they are getting an overrun because it's like 2 minutes left and they still wrestling.
They might. We'll see.
Yeah, because you're not just gonna have her win the title and then
all right,
boom, the show goes on.
These gentlemen are back on. So let me continue.
Oh joy. Yeah, we'll see how NXT ends. I guess they're getting an overrun though. I guess they are. Queen Me, I guess, has been solid. I don't really care.
Is buy firearms. Senator Vance, you oppose most gun legislation that Democrats claim would curb gun violence. You oppose red flag gun laws and legislation to ban certain semi-automatic rifles, including AR-15s. So let me ask you, earlier this year, for the first time, the parents of a school shooter were convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, Nora, on that particular case, I don't know the full details, but I certainly trust local law enforcement and local authorities to make those decisions. I think in some cases the answer is going to be yes, and in some cases the answer is going to be no. And the details really matter here, of course. For example, if a kid steals a gun, that's going to be different than if a parent hands over a gun knowing that their kid is potentially dangerous. But look, I want to just sort of speak as a father of 3 beautiful little kids, and our oldest is now in 2nd grade. And like a lot of parents, we send our kids to school with such hope and such joy and such pride at their little faces on the first day of school. And we know, unfortunately, that a lot of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course, our hearts go out to the families that are affected by this terrible stuff. And we do have to do better. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just, how do we actually do it? Now, here's something that really bothers me and worries me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority, close to 90% in some of the statistics I've seen, of the gun violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms. And while we're on that topic, we know that thanks to Kamala Harris's open border, we've seen a massive influx in the number of illegal guns run by the Mexican drug cartels. So that number, the amount of illegal guns in our country is higher today than it was 3.5 years ago. What do we do about the schools? What do we do to protect our kids? And I think the answer is, and I say this not loving the answer, because I don't want my kids to go to school in a school that feels unsafe or where there are visible signs of security. But I unfortunately think that we have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers, because the idea that we can magically wave a wand and take guns out of the hands of
where does Giulia go from here after losing? What will Roxanne have to say? What does her story look like? Who's potentially going to be stepping up next for that title, and who can potentially be the one to take the title? So I'm looking forward to seeing how they do with that. But yeah, it was a 3 out of 5 show for me.
Playing volleyball, those things don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat in my office surrounded by dozens of the Sandio parents.
From what I've seen, it was a pretty good show. Well, from the last couple matches I've seen, they were pretty good. But NXT is going to be NXT, and I probably won't watch. But it does. At least they're in arenas. I will say that. I'm glad they're expanding to arenas. I'm not sure if that's going to be the norm. But
Yeah, hopefully it is.
Just through next week. Just through next week.
Because the sexy one is coming through. That's why they're going to go to another arena next week.
Yes. And I think pay-per-views, but yes.
This is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that
they should do fine on it. They should do fine on the CW though.
And it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not
I can see them doing that.
When we know there are things that work. I've spent time in Finland and seen some Finnish schools. They don't have this happen, even though they have a high gun ownership rate in the country. There are reasonable things that we can do to make a difference. It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the idea to have some of these weapons out there, it just doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris, as an attorney general, worked on this issue. She knows that it's there. No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns, but I ask all of you out there.
You can't have my gun.
Do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Is that what we have to go? When we know there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills. They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult. You can still keep your firearms and we can make a difference. We have to. If you're listening tonight, this breaks your heart.
Senator.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing okay. Christ have mercy. It is awful. And I appreciate what Tim said actually about Finland, because I do think it illustrates some of the frankly weird differences between our own country's gun violence problem and Finland. Is okay. First of all, we have way higher rates of mental health abuse or mental health substance abuse. We have way higher rates of depression, way higher rates of anxiety. We unfortunately have a mental health crisis in this country that I really do think that we need to get to the root causes of, because I don't think it's the whole reason why we have such a bad gun violence problem, but I do think it's a big piece of it. Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially that affecting our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem in a lot of our big cities. And this is why we have to empower law enforcement to arrest the bad guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the streets. I think there's a whole host of things that we can do here, but I do think at our schools, we've got to talk about more security.
Senator, thank you. Governor, you previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was the NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is talking about cities and where it's at. The number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves. And so we have, and we should look at all of the issues, making sure folks have health care and all that. But I want to be very careful. This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns. And there are things that you can do about it. But I do think that this is one, and I think this is a healthy conversation. I think there's a capacity to find solutions on this that work, protect Second Amendment, protect our children. That's our priority.
Gentlemen, thank you. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. Let's turn now to the top contributor to inflation, the high cost of housing and rent. There's a shortage of more than 4 million homes in the United States, and that contributes to the high housing prices. Governor Walz, the Harris campaign promises a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise to build 3 million new homes. Where are you building these homes, and won't handing out that kind of money just drive up prices higher?
No, it's not handing out. We have, first, let me say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've had is that we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up, it can be shifted, it can be moved around. Those are not folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services after midnight mass where you go with your family. We need to make it more affordable. And one of the things, as I said, this program that the vice president is pushing forward and bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're doing in Minnesota from that lead. We in the state invested in making sure our housing was the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape. Local folks, look, we can't do it at the federal level, but local folks make it easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance. I can tell all of you out there, certainly for me, using the GI Bill was one thing, but a veteran's home loan, the big thing about a veteran's home loan is you don't have to pay the down payment. Those are things that make it there. Now, look, you're going to pay it back. And you're going to pay your mortgage. Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis an example. Minneapolis is the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rates. We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we've put some of these things in. And we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should be able to find some common ground in, but we can't blame immigrants for the only reason. That's not the case that's happening in many cities. The fact of the matter is that we don't have enough naturally affordable housing, but we can make sure that the government's there to help kickstart it, create that base.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices.
How long is it supposed to be going?
Where are you going to build?
I think it's over at.
And what part of any of this plan will provide immediate relief? You have 2 minutes.
I want to say either 10:30 or
Tim just said
10:40.
something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but
Right,
we do
somewhere
want to
in
blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this country, which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal alien populations under Kamala Harris's leadership. Now, Tim just mentioned
Orioles, Byron.
I was frozen. I'll be doing a video probably after this. So.
As a newcomer to
politics,
okay. She is the sitting vice president. If she wants to enact all of these
I watched half of that.
They went to bed.
I was like, I was like, y'all gonna do exactly the same thing y'all did last year? Are you serious?
Not even one run.
Not even one.
The American dream of homeownership completely unaffordable. Now you asked Margaret, what would
can't even score one run.
He got a perfect, almost a perfect game from Corbin Burns, and this is what you do.
The biggest drivers of housing costs
nothing.
From illegal immigration.
And that might be his last time pitching for the Orioles. So that's probably gone.
Yeah, because that's right. He's a free agent, ain't he?
Yes. So if we lose, he's probably gone.
Open up American energy.
So are they going to pay him $200 million? Probably not. 300 million? Probably not.
Not, by the way, just in housing, but
we'll be needing more pitching.
Goods too.
I highly doubt
Senator
it.
Vance, you still have 20 seconds there. Do you want to answer?
They better win tomorrow.
Governor, we will get to you in a moment. But Senator, where are you going to?
I don't know, man.
Can you clarify?
I think
no
I think the pressure's getting to him, man.
Being used for anything. They're not being used for national parks.
You better figure it out.
I don't have faith in them to win 2 in a row.
Where we build a lot of housing.
I don't have faith in them to win 2 in a row. I don't.
Building in this country.
They ain't gonna win 2 in a row.
We have a lot of land that could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are
look like that at home.
And we should be building more homes for the American citizens who deserve to be here.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, I do want to let you respond to the allegation that the vice president is letting in.
Well, of course, that's not true. And again, you have
I don't know what they do in the off season though. They I don't know what they're gonna do. They do go if they do lose tomorrow. I don't know what they're gonna do in the off season.
I was going to ask though on this question.
I don't know what they're gonna do either.
Build houses in the same federal land. And I think when people hear federal land,
it's like
really important pieces of land.
I mean, you got a team that won 100 games the year before, 90 games this year.
There's not a lot of
it's not like
man win a damn playoff game.
Right, you can't win a playoff game.
I don't understand the federal lands issue unless we see this, and I worry about this.
Can't hit.
Like I said, even if they do win tomorrow, I don't know if I have confidence in them to win 2 in a row. High pressure games.
of the world's fresh water. These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when you view housing and you view these things as commodities. There's a chance to make money here. Let's take this federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's better ways to do this. We've seen it in Minnesota. We're able to refurbish some of these houses. We're able to make some investments. That gets people in. And I'm still on the fact on this. Economists, Senator Vance, you said you don't like the economists. Which economists are saying that it is immigrants that's adding to the cost?
Governor, your time is up. But Senator, on that point, I'd like for you to clarify. There are many contributing factors to high housing costs. What evidence do you have that migrants are part of this problem?
Well, there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share after the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly have a federal administration that makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail for not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes. I actually agree with Tim Walz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into a commodity is giving it away to millions upon millions of people who have no legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
You can very quickly reply.
I'm sorry. I get this as a governor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that in some cases, many of those are local. Many of them are state. I don't know which ones are federal, but I think whenever we talk regulations, people think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those. Congress writes those.
Governor, thank you. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. You're passionate about the housing crisis, I can tell. But Nora?
Thank you. One of the top problems facing Americans is the high cost of health care. Senator Vance, at the last presidential debate, former President Trump was asked about replacing the Affordable Care Act. In response, he said, "I have concepts of a plan." Since then, Senator, you've talked about changing how chronically ill Americans get health insurance. Can you explain how that would work? And can you guarantee that Americans with pre-existing conditions won't pay more? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, a lot of my family members have gotten health care. I believe, members of my family actually got private health insurance, at least for the first time, switched off of Medicaid onto private insurance for the first time under Donald Trump's leadership. And I think that, a lot of people have criticized this concepts of a plan remark. I think it's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record to be proud of, prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, prescription drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced pricing transparency. Think about healthcare. You go into a hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually is.
It's literally wrong.
Transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice.
Prescription drugs are they're literally not.
The reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about. Look, Donald Trump
got regulated to be
allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill. It's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was doing disastrously until Donald Trump came along.
They want a lot, I don't think,
about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything that President Trump has ever said.
All that mattered were like hundreds
when
of
Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. It's not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do, but I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better health care policies because he did it successfully the first time.
All right, here's where being a bald guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the reason it was so important is I come from a major healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to Medical Alley.
Are you speaking
3M,
facts now?
Medtronic,
Okay,
all of those.
facts.
We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked
Whatever you
first
say,
on affordability and accessibility
it is your
and quality
month,
of healthcare.
by the way.
And so what I know is under Kamala Harris, more people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants to go back and remember this. He ran on the first thing he was going to do on day one was to repeal Obamacare. On day one, he tried to sign an executive order to repeal the ACA. He signed on to a lawsuit to repeal the ACA, but lost at the Supreme Court. And he would have repealed the ACA had it not been for the courage of John McCain to save that bill. Now, fast forward, what that means to you is you lose your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated drug prices for the first time with Medicare. We have 10 drugs that will come online, the most common ones. This issue, and when Donald Trump said, I've got a concept of a plan, it cracked me up as a fourth grade teacher because my kids would have never given me that. But what Senator Vance just explained might be worse than a concept, because what he explained is pre-Obamacare. And I'll make this as simple as possible because I have done this for a long time. What they're saying is, if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure, because guess what happens? You pay your premium, it's not much. They figure they're not going to have to pay out to you. But those of you a little older, gray, got cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Will she now?
Governor, thank you. Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing conditions or laid out that plan.
Well, look, we currently have laws and regulations in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place, but we also want to make the health insurance marketplace function a little bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true. A lot of what happened, and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight, is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped address that problem, and he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something that these guys do is they make a lot of claims about if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was president. Inflation was low. Take-home pay was higher, and he saved the very program from a Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is govern in a bipartisan way and get results, not just complain about problems, but actually solve them.
Governor, did enrollment under the Affordable Care Act go up under the Trump administration?
It's higher now that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young people or whatever, that's the individual mandate piece of this. And Republicans fought tooth and nail saying, well, Americans should be free to do this. Well, then what happens is— So you think the
individual mandate's a good idea?
You shrink. I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover everyone, that's the only way insurance works. When it doesn't, it collapses. You are asking pre-ACA where we get people out. Look, people know that they need to be on health care. People expect it to be there. And when we are able to make it, and we are making it this way, when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people who might not be able to afford it get there, and we make sure then when you get sick and old, it's there for you. Because I heard people say, well, I don't want to buy into Medicare or whatever. Good luck buying health care once you get past 70. So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret,
can
I apologize. We're out of time. We have a number of subjects to discuss. Margaret.
Let's talk about families in America.
Oh, families. Oh, boy.
There is a child care crisis in this country, and the United States is one of the very few developed countries in the world without a national paid leave program for new parents. Governor Walz, you said that if Democrats win both the White House and Congress, this is a day one priority for you. How long should employers be required to pay workers while they are home taking care of their newborns? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's negotiable, and that's what Congress worked. But here's what the deal is. Americans sitting out there right now, you may work for a big company. Look, we're home in Minnesota to some of the largest Fortune 500 companies.
There you go.
Kamala Harris knows that in
I will not
in
hush. I
California.
want to go back.
Those
We're
companies
going to go
provide
back.
paid family medical leave. One is
You're going to go
I think
back
they're
to.
moral and they think it's a good thing, but it also keeps their employees healthy. We in Minnesota passed a paid family medical leave. You have a child, and I had to go back to work 5 days after my kids were born. This allows you to stay home a certain amount of time. What we know is that gets the child off to a better start. The family works better. We stay in their employers. We get more consistency in that. So Kamala Harris has made it a priority. We implemented it in Minnesota, and we see growth. That's how you become
We are going to move forward.
A pro-business state.
We're going to
but the
move forward with
negotiations
Donald
on it,
J.
and
Trump.
here's the issue. Those
That's what we're
big
going to move
companies are able
forward
to
with.
offer it.
Queen.
Those of you out there who don't have it, just imagine what happens if you get cancer or your child gets sick. We know what happens. You end up staying home. In some cases, that means no paycheck, because you've got no protection on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has set for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us. And so a paid family medical leave program, and I will tell you, go to the families or go to the businesses and ask them. As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take either our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're still in crisis on this. A federal program of paid family medical leave and help with this will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support a national paid leave program? And if so, for how long should employers be mandated to pay their employees while they are home taking care of their newborn? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats, too, have worked on this issue. And I think there is a bipartisan solution here because a lot of us care about this issue. I mean, look, I speak from this very personally because I'm married to a beautiful woman who's an incredible mother to our 3 beautiful kids, but is also a very, very brilliant corporate litigator. And I'm so proud of her. But being a working mom, even for somebody with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company. But the cultural pressure on young families and especially young women, I think makes it really hard for people to choose the family model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care model that makes choice possible. And I think this is a very important substantive difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach. I mean, look, if you look at the federal programs that we have that support paid family leave right now, the Community Development Block Grant, and there's another block grant program that spends a lot of money from the federal government. These programs only go to one kind of childcare model. Let's say you'd like your church maybe to help you out with childcare. Maybe you live in a rural area or an urban area and you'd like to get together with families in your neighborhood to provide childcare in the way that makes the most sense. You don't get access to any of these federal monies. We want to promote choice in how we deliver family care and how we promote childcare because look, it is unacceptable. And, you know, of course, Tim and I have been on the campaign trail a lot the past 7 or 8 weeks. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking care for their kids. That is an incredible burden to put on American families. We're the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot better.
Senator, thank you. You have also said, Senator Vance, many things about the American family. The Federal Reserve says parents will spend nearly as much on childcare as they do on housing each month. So I want to get your thoughts on this. President Trump recently said, as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in. Is President Trump committed to the $5,000 per child tax credit that you have described? You have 1 minute.
Well, what President Trump said, Margaret, I just want to defend my running mate here a little bit, is that we're going to be taking in a lot of money by penalizing companies for shipping jobs overseas and penalizing countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses that are hiring and building companies in the United States of America, but penalize companies and countries that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the heart of the economic proposal. And I think what President Trump is saying is that when we bring in this additional revenue with higher economic growth, we're going to be able to provide paid family leave, childcare options that are viable and workable for a lot of American families.
Can you clarify how that will solve the childcare shortage?
Well, because as Tim said, a lot of the childcare shortage is we just don't have enough resources going into the multiple people who could be providing family care options. And we're going to have to, unfortunately, look, we're going to have to spend more money. We're going to have to induce more people to want to provide childcare options for American families, because the reason it's so expensive right now is because you've got way too few people providing this very essential service.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, your ticket also has some child care tax credit proposals. Do you think Congress will agree to the $6,000 credit for newborns and $3,000 credit for children over the age of 6, as your campaign has promised? Is that realistic?
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's $5,000 or $6,000, that pays you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarship types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case. But the issue here is, the question you asked is, you're not going to pay for it with these tariffs. That's just adding another $4,000 on the family and taking less. So not only do they not get the money to pay for that, they're $4,000 in the hole. That's Wharton School. That's his alma mater. And so I think the issue here is, if those members of Congress, I can't believe they're not. When I go to businesses, sure, they'll talk about taxes sometime, but they will lead with childcare and they will lead with housing, because we know the problem is, especially in a state like Minnesota, we need more workers because our economy is growing, but we need the workforce.
Governor, thank you. We need to move on. Nora?
Let's talk about the state of democracy, the top issue for Americans after the economy and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results. Judges, including those appointed by President Trump and other Republican presidents, looked at the evidence and said there was no widespread fraud. The governors of every state in the nation, Republicans and Democrats, certified the 2020 election results and sent a legal slate of electors to Congress for January 6th. Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
He got cheated.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies.
I don't give a damn.
Make housing affordable, make groceries affordable.
She said she's going to buy you a
clown.
crown.
I hope you realize these are
Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square. That's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House. And now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years. Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by 2 lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind a basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues. And that, to me, is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
Governor?
Peacefully.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate, and I think there was a lot of commonality here. And I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator. But
me too, man.
There's one though that this one is troubling to me, and I say that because I think we need to tell the story. Donald Trump refused to acknowledge this, and the fact is that I don't think we can be the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he did. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day. Some with the American flag, several later died. And it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group gathered on the state Capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, we're marching to the governor's residence and there may be casualties. The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police. That issue, and Mike Pence standing there as they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. Mike Pence made the right decision. So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then you try and do everything you can to help the other side win. That's what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Margaret?
Senator Vance, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, well, look, Tim, first of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin because the Russians bought like $500,000 worth of Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
Governor.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history on this. Look, I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that. We've seen that brought up. I just think for everyone tonight, and I'm going to thank Senator Vance. I think this is the conversation they want to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement, but this is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further.
True.
But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't
Senator,
wear
the
masks.
governor does
That's
have the
not
floor.
fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to respond to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there
Censorship
who
is not
refused,
good.
and now again, and this I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election.
Censorship
This is not
terrible.
a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be right back with both of our candidates. The CBS News vice presidential debate continues.
Just closing arguments, and that's it. They actually finally got into it at the end. Crazy.
Oh, we're getting get closing arguments then? Awesome. Great.
Yeah, closing arguments. Yes, sir. All right. Let me.
It was good to, how did you enjoy NXT? I know you were there tonight. Leo, been a minute. Congrats on getting back to 300. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, Tino. I appreciate that.
Are you back to 300, Leo?
Yeah, I'm at 300 subscribers now. 304 to be exact.
I'll be back. I need to use
still grinding to get back to where I was, so it's gonna be a while. It was good, man. Was not expecting Trick to win. Hey, I mean, it was a good thing that they did have Trick win, because I think they kind of was having like a lot of heels kind of went throughout the night. So you were bound to get at least like one big baby face. Congratulations on 300. I appreciate that, Queen Me. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. It's not bad at all.
Nope, not at all. And Ethan Richard, I did think Giulia was gonna win. I was surprised that she didn't win, but I think they're probably gonna tell a bigger, longer story with that, potentially. So we'll see how next week's NXT plays out. But I do think now that you have Delta coming in, then you have Stephanie McCurry coming in at some point, the women's division in NXT is definitely getting more and more stacked by the week for sure. And that's not even including the talent that they already have that they're trying to build in NXT currently.
Are you frozen again, Byron? Yeah, I think Byron's frozen again. He's in frozen mode.
Oh boy.
This is one of them nice unfrozen. He's unfrozen Byron now. Oh, now he's frozen again. Never mind. Oh, now he's
stuck in the Matrix. He keeps getting stuck in the Matrix.
It's okay. This whole country is stuck in the Matrix right now.
Yikes.
Don't worry though. A lot of us is gonna wake up after November 5th, if you know what I mean. Ain't got no choice.
Don't Don't let Queen Mary hear you say that. She
Oh, Queen is on. Queen hear me. She listening. She's on here. She's on here
like that.
She's on here being angry. It's okay.
Now, what you think she gonna tell you if you lose and Kamala does win?
I mean, she's just gonna, rub it in my face, and I ain't gonna care. I mean, come on.
You ain't gonna hit the end of it. I'm telling you, Raj. You're not gonna.
If Kamala wins, then she wins. I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm just going to be like, okay, well, let's see what you do with your win. Hopefully you do something.
That's kind of how I am with a lot of people who run for president or anything like that. Like, I just see how they do. Honestly, just don't F up the country. That's all I ask. Yeah,
I mean, it's already effed up now. Don't F it up even more. Let's just say
it's always been that way though.
So it is what it is. If she wins, good for her. But if she don't win, and my boy get back in there, it's gonna be curtains.
Curtain crazy.
Coming for you. I'm gonna come for you. And you better not hide. You better not be cussing. And you better not be stomping and crying or whatever. Just take it. Just take the L. So that's all I'm gonna say. Just take the L when it happens. But anyway, closing arguments. Here we go.
I'm back.
And the folks who miss dancing with their stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift, and a whole bunch of folks in between there. And they don't all agree on everything, but they are truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this country and one where our politics can be better than it is. And I have to tell you, that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something, not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself. Now, look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage. And then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that. Senator Vance tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said, Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way. We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl. And that, too, has gotten harder with Kamala because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day. Please get out and vote. And for all of us here at CBS News, thank you and good night.
And good night. That's all right, that's enough. Okay. That was beautiful. Lovely.
Wolf, you got any thoughts on NXT or the presidential debate before we get out of here?
I thought NXT was good, interesting, but not too crazy. I definitely enjoyed it. I was not expecting Cora to return. And crazy. What's crazy is I'm already seeing online IWC saying like malding that Cora came back and saying like, oh, why did Cora get involved in like people that like completely outshine her? I'm like, Cora's not that bad. Like, yeah, in ring she doesn't like fully compare to Giulia and Roxanne, but like she's incredible on the mic. She's pretty solid, like good enough in ring. I say just chill, wait it out. Plus she's been injured a couple times. That's definitely hurt her, but I do think Cora will make things interesting. Regarding the debate, I hated how it started. When they talked, what's it called? The Israel situation. That was not good from either of them, but I'm not surprised. Overall, I think the debate was actually pretty decent. Actually better than almost all the recent ones, especially the ones with Trump in them, because there's no chaotic factor. I think it's a breath of fresh air. Yeah, that opening was definitely awful for both of them, but overall, I definitely like the civil aspect of it. And I mean, Vance obviously said some pretty just completely untrue things, but like that's not surprising to me. Confidence wise, they were both good. And also the January 6th non-answer, which wasn't his first non-answer, but his most impactful one, I think, was not good for him. Yeah, I don't know. I think overall it was just a good debate to have. I don't think it changes anything in terms of the election, but it's nice to have.
Leo, go ahead.
NXT was cool. I was kind of looking a little bit more to see if they were going to have more bigger people to be showing up on the show. I mean, considering that they were talking that this was going to be a big show, expect big surprises, and we really didn't get much of that, honestly. I mean, yeah, we got Record J coming back, but that's not really like something really huge, groundbreaking. I know we did see the new designs of the NXT titles. The women's title was cool. The men's was cool, I guess, but I'm still not a big fan of the design, honestly. And the new logo that they're going for, I mean, I spoke about it with Wolf earlier, that the design really could have used the extra coat of paint to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. The match quality that we did get overall for the show was decent, and stuff like that. I did love the street fight that we got between Nash Carter and Wes Lee. I did love the opening match for the women's title, which was cool as well. The closing match, the main event was cool. I was expecting a little bit more for it being the main event. If the way I see it, the opening match should have been the main event, just because of how the match quality was and the ending and stuff like that. So I would say that at the very least. But it was a decent show. If I had to rate it out of 5, I would give it a 3. It was decent. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst by any means either.
Appreciate it, Leo. We'll see you tomorrow. And Raj, last but not least. You're on mute.
Like I said, I didn't see that much of NXT except for the last probably 30 minutes of it. From what I saw, though, I'm glad they're in a big arena for the time being. The last match was great with Trent, with Trick and Ethan Page and CM Punk at the referee spot. I thought that was pretty cool. Hopefully they do some more things going forward on the CW network, but I'm not sure. But it is what it is. But as far as a debate itself that we watched, probably the best debate out of all the debates this year between, President Trump and President Biden, and then you had Kamala and Trump, which was also a shit show. But tonight, Vance and Tim Walz did a good job. I mean, they pretty much stressed a lot of points. Tim Walz actually surprised me. I didn't know he was this fluent. Like I've heard him speak before, but I didn't think he was going to be able to pull off this type of performance. Hats off to him. He was great. Lady Vance.
I'm pretty sure he said that he's generally bad at debates during betting and stuff. But he did good. He was definitely good.
He was great. He said a lot of words. But I appreciate some of the stuff that he was talking about, and I really respected the fact that these two gentlemen were very respectful to each other. So I thought when you're always respectful to a person you debate, is always going to be a good debate, in my opinion. So even though JD was ducking and dodging a couple of questions and giving them the runaround, I think he did pretty good on some aspects itself. So I don't really think it's a winner or a loser tonight as far as the debate itself. Like Wolf said, if you know you're gonna vote for it, then you pretty much just gonna vote for that person. But it was good, man. It was just good to see something of normalcy, because these last debates, I guess 3 elections where you had Trump and all of them going crazy, it does get a little bit tiresome. So it was a breath of fresh air when you have 2 distinct gentlemen just having an actual debate and not talking, just to talk. But those are my opinions and thoughts.
Thank you for that, Raj. Anytime plus, guys, we'll be live tomorrow for AEW 5-year anniversary, and this weekend for Bad Blood on Saturday, and next week for NXT, the Sexy Red and Randy Orton versus Javon Evans, and a couple championship matches as well. Anything else, guys, before we get out of here? Really. Wolf, Leo, Raj, thank you guys for being here. Thank you everybody for watching. Hit the like button on your way out. Hit the subscribe button. We gone now. Peace.
Acknowledge me.